You step outside just after sundown, and the world disappears faster than you expect. There's no soft glow from windows, no flickering lanterns guiding your way. Instead, the dark falls like a heavy lid, shutting out every shape and sound that could help you stay alive. The cold hits next, a dry, needling chill that slips through wool, leather, and bone. You pull your cloak tight, but it doesn't matter. Darkness is the real enemy here, and it's absolute. Even your own hands fade from view unless you practically press them against your face. Somewhere nearby, a dog growls. Or maybe it's a man. It's impossible to tell, because by night, everything blends into the same hungry black. Your only comfort is the faint orange glow from a shuttered window. Someone still tending their hearth. But that warmth isn't for you, and the moment they close those shutters, you're alone. This isn't romantic medieval starlight. This is survival mode. And you're already behind, because the myths you know about medieval lighting are completely wrong. You've seen those movies where the streets blaze with torches and nobles wander freely under warm, golden flames. Forget all that. In reality, torches were expensive, messy, and burned out faster than a modern flashlight on its last battery. No medieval town wasted money lighting public streets at night. If you wanted light, you paid for it, and you paid a lot. Candles? Only if you were rich. Even a cheap tallow candle was a luxury for ordinary people. It burned quickly, dripped greasy smoke, and filled your home with a smell like old pork. Oil lamps gave slightly better light, but only enough to illuminate a hand's width in front of you. You're in deep darkness again the moment you take a step. So how did people navigate? They didn't. They stayed inside, hugged their tiny flame, or simply went to bed to wait out the danger. But you're out here now, with no light source at all. The night feels thicker, heavier, and far more threatening than you ever imagined. And then a bell rings, not for danger, but for control. Because medieval towns had a strict rule at night: put out your fire or else. The sound echoes through the streets, a deep, slow clang that rolls through the dark like a warning from the underworld. This is the curfew. Cover fire. After this moment, every household must extinguish their hearth, not just dim it, smother it completely. The reason? Fire. Medieval towns were tinderboxes made of wood, thatch, and desperation. One stray spark could erase an entire neighborhood before dawn. So when the bell sounds, doors slam, shutters close, and the last warm lights shrink away. Even taverns, the beating heart of medieval chaos, lock their doors. The town becomes a sealed box of sleeping bodies and buried embers. If you're still outside when the bell finishes ringing, you're not supposed to be there. You feel the atmosphere change. It's not just dark, it's forbidden. Movement after curfew is suspicious, criminal, or downright suicidal. And with city gates locked tight, you have nowhere to run. But someone still has to guard this uneasy silence. And trust me, you wouldn't want the job that comes next. Imagine being assigned to walk pitch-black streets, armed with nothing but a wooden stick, a lantern that barely glows, and the knowledge that anyone you meet after midnight is probably dangerous. That's the medieval night watch. Underpaid, exhausted, and frequently drunk just to get through their shift, these men patrolled a world you can barely see. You hear them before you see them. Heavy boots scraping cobblestones, low muttering, and the occasional shouted warning, "Keep to your homes." Their job wasn't heroic. It was miserable. They broke up tavern fights, chased thieves they couldn't even see, and risked ambushes from gangs who knew every shadow. Fall asleep on duty, and you're the criminal. Fail to stop a crime, and you're punished for negligence. The Night Watch walked a thin line between authority and victimhood. And if things truly went wrong, No one was coming to save them. Or you. And if the guards scare you, wait until you meet the people who rule the night. Once the honest folk hid behind their doors, the streets belonged to a different class. Thieves, cut purses, drunk brawlers, and killers who treated darkness as their ally. You move quietly, but you still feel the eyes on you. A hand might grab your cloak. A blade could press against your ribs. And with no one around to witness anything, you simply vanish into the night. Criminal gangs thrived after sunset because the law was helpless in places no one could see. Some worked with eerie precision, cutting purse strings so cleanly you didn't feel a thing. Others preferred noise, smashing through tavern windows, dragging victims into alleys, or robbing travelers who got lost after curfew. The night was anarchy. If you screamed, who would hear you? If you ran, where would you go? Every dark corner conceals a shape. Every shape hides a threat. But humans weren't the only predators out here, because animals stalked medieval streets too. And they were just as deadly. Before you even realize it, something skitters past your feet. A rat, fat, bold, and unafraid. Medieval towns were crawling with them, especially at night. They fought over scraps, chewed through wood, spread disease, and swarmed in numbers modern cities never experience. Then come the dogs, mangy, starving, territorial. Packs roamed the streets, scavenging waste piles and attacking anyone who threatened their territory. A bite wasn't just painful, it carried a terrifying risk. Rabies. In the Middle Ages, rabies meant certain death, long and agonizing. Wolves sometimes crept into the outskirts of towns, especially in harsh winters. They avoided fire and crowds, but a lone traveler? That was fair game. With animals acting like a second criminal class, even your own home stops feeling secure. But it's far worse than you think, because inside, the dangers are waiting under your blanket. And that brings you to the horrors you meet when you finally try to sleep. You stumble into a tiny one-room hut, relieved to be out of the night. But comfort is an illusion. The moment you lie down, the real torment begins. Fleas, lice, and bedbugs sink their teeth into your skin, biting, burrowing, and breeding. You can't see them, but you feel them, crawling under your clothes, feasting on your blood, turning your sleep into a battlefield. The air is thick with smoke from the hearth, because chimneys are a luxury you don't have. Your eyes sting, your lungs burn, and the warmth you hoped for becomes suffocating. The wooden door doesn't lock, it barely closes. A thief could walk in. A stray dog could push through. Fire could start from a fallen ember and wipe out the entire block before anyone wakes up. You drift in and out of restless half-sleep, waiting for morning like it's salvation. But even the air around you feels hostile, because medieval people believed night itself was poisonous. You've heard of miasma, the idea that bad air causes disease. Medieval people believed night air was the worst of all. Cold, damp, and filled with invisible threats, it was thought to seep into your lungs and rot you from the inside. Doctors warned against opening windows after sunset. Entire families slept in sealed rooms, breathing smoke instead of fresh air. And to be fair, night wasn't exactly healthy. Infections spread faster in crowded, unventilated homes. Rats and fleas transmitted deadly illnesses while people slept. Even minor conditions, fever, infections, breathing problems, turned fatal without light to treat them or tools to help. So people feared the dark as a physical force. Not just superstition, survival instinct. But fear of the air was nothing compared to what they believed roamed the shadows. And that's where medieval imagination takes an even darker turn. Imagine living in a world where the boundary between reality and nightmare was paper thin. You hear a creak outside your window, and your mind leaps to demons, spirits, or witches hunting for souls. That's the medieval night, a place thick with supernatural terror. People believed demons attacked sleeping victims, pressing on their chests and stealing their breath. Witches were said to slip through keyholes or transform into animals to roam freely after midnight. Wolves weren't just wolves, they were shapeshifters, cursed men trapped between worlds. With so little scientific understanding, everything strange became mystical. A shadow became a warning, a howl became a curse, a nightmare became an omen. You didn't just fear criminals or animals, you feared the universe itself turning against you. And yet, nothing compared to the terror of being forced to travel at night, because stepping outside the walls after dark was practically a death sentence. You stand outside the town gate, which is locked until sunrise. Beyond it lies nothing but wilderness, forests, marshes, and miles of unmarked land. No road signs, no lamps, no help. Just darkness swallowing everything past your outstretched hand. If you get lost, and you will, no one will ever find you. Bandits dominated rural paths after sunset. They hid behind trees, waited in ditches, and attacked anyone foolish enough to travel alone. Wolves patrolled the same routes, silent and disciplined hunters. Fall, twist an ankle, injure yourself. That's the end. You can't light a fire without drawing attention. You can't shout for help because no one is there. Traveling at night wasn't dangerous. It was suicidal. And that brings us to the final contrast. What night means today versus what it meant then. Because the difference will make you grateful for every streetlight you've ever seen. Step outside your home tonight and count the lights. Street lamps, windows, signs, headlights. Even at 3 a.m., you're rarely in complete darkness. You can call for help. You can navigate. You can breathe clean air. You can sleep without parasites eating you alive. Safety isn't guaranteed, but it exists. Medieval people had none of this. Their nights were shaped by fear, danger, and survival. Darkness was not peaceful. It was a force that dictated daily routines, laws, beliefs, and the very architecture of towns. People lived with constant awareness that one wrong step after sunset could end their life. That's why medieval night feels like a different world, one we could not handle for more than a few hours. But the truth of medieval darkness reveals something deeper, something about fear, humanity, and the shadows we still carry today. When the sun went down, medieval life didn't pause, it transformed. Darkness exposed human vulnerability, amplified every threat, and filled the world with real and imagined horrors. It shaped laws, rituals, curfews, prayers, and entire belief systems. Night wasn't just the absence of light, it was the presence of fear. And standing here now, in your borrowed medieval shoes, you realize how much people relied on each other. Not for comfort, but for survival. You needed the town walls, the bell, the watchman, the hearth, the locked door. Without them, you were alone with the night. But don't get too comfortable. The Middle Ages have far darker secrets left to uncover, especially the things people did because they were terrified of the dark. And in the next episode, you're going deeper into that darkness,